Hey guys, so today I am starting my useful VFX tutorial series, and in this tutorial I am going to be covering how to do a classic action scene with explosions and motion tracking. So I do have a project file available via email, so you can just send an email at TheFinalCutters@gmail.com to get it. Now you can see if I hit Shift Z to fit in window, which did not work for some reason, so I'll just take the other not so shortcut way. So I was out in my backyard and I was filmed running through a scene, and it looks as though I'm really bad at running, but actually I did that on purpose because at certain points I nearly fell over, and that would symbolize where I wanted to put an explosion. Now I'm going to put the finished product in right now. So I hope you enjoyed that little preview. We might as well get to work now. So you want to first figure out where the first explosion is going to happen. So we come in and it's supposed to be right here. So you want it to happen a little bit before I stumble. And then there is also something else you need for this, and that's some stock footage of an explosion. Now there's this great site where you can get such things. It's called detonationfilms.com. They have a bunch of free as well as cheap explosion footage. So this freebie is called T-Pipe01A for some reason. And you notice how the first couple frames is a watermark. You kind of just want to cut that out and then make sure it's placed in the proper position at frame 84 in my case. And you can see how we have this black square in the middle of nowhere. You want to right click on your group, select blend mode, and usually you want to use screen, so you can see how that just gives us the nice explosion there. So in the preview I made, put the explosion over here on this log. Yeah, that looks right. And you can see how the explosion is moving. Now that doesn't look all that realistic, does it? So we have to make it so that it moves with the set. In order to do this, you're going to select your group and you're going to go into your behaviors and select match move. Go into your inspector under the behaviors tab for your group, and you'll see this red crosshair in the canvas. You're going to want to find a high contrast point in your shot that is visible for the entire time that you have your explosion. So this can take a little bit of time. Once you find a good high contrast spot, you're going to want to tap under movement, analyze. So now it's analyzing how much that point moves, and then the explosion will follow it accordingly. And you can hit stop when it's at about 25% in my case, because at that point your explosion is already out of the scene, so there's really no need to continue. Now if we just render that real quick, which unfortunately, because my computer is so painfully slow, it doesn't, so I'm going to go under render and reduce the video quality. And let's try that again. A little better. So that brings me to my next point. Since I'm doing this sometime, what is it? It's like March 20th. The sun's shining, you can hear the birds, and I'm running through a war scene. So you're going to want to take the group, find its audio under this audio tab, and drag the slider to -96. So yeah, that kind of helps to give it a bit more realism for the set that I'm on. And when we go through with this explosion, you don't see anything that could have caused an explosion. When I had the little preview that I showed you a few moments ago, there was something streaking down, which you should have interpreted as a missile, and then hitting the ground where the explosion occurred. Now that's another thing I have some stock footage for from detonation films, and it is called Line Rocket Side. And I'm just going to want to drag that on. Again, you're going to want to rotate it accordingly. Take off the first couple frames. So right about there. Then bring it back in position on your timeline. Right click, blend mode, screen. Move it into position here. And you're going to want to advance forward a little bit so you can see where it ends. It ends right about there. I actually scaled it up a bit because it was too small for me. And I'm doing the same thing here. So that's about where it went. And then it needs to be so that right when the explosion starts, the missile is in place. So go to the flash point of your explosion and then move your line rocket side accordingly. So now, when we just skim across that, there's a missile streaking down. It actually goes a little too far. So we want to set an out point on that missile, which actually doesn't quite work, so you have to make it longer and just change the position. Because if you have a spontaneous out point, then there's no fade out on the smoke and it looks really bad. So you just want to kind of extend that until the smoke is gone, and then make sure that you have your rocket going to the correct position. So that looks a little better, but you're noticing how the smoke from the rocket doesn't move corresponding to the camera. So you're actually going to want to select Group 2, Behaviors, Motion Tracking, Match Move. However, rather than analyzing that, you're going to set it so that the source is the explosion. So it's going to move the same way the explosion did, which is moving the same way the camera does, which works pretty much perfectly. So you just do that. You want to actually drag that group's match move in. So you can see in your layers you've got group 1 and then the match move behavior. You're going to want to drag that in so that it actually works. And then it all moves as it should. So if we render that, so now we can just drag the playhead back, hit play, and we have an explosion. Now, I don't know about you, but it is completely silent for me. Now there's this little button down here in the corner that I've never showed you before, and this is the audio editor. There's this little dot here that can change the size. And what you want to do is get a sound effect of an explosion. And there's another shout out I want to make to Final Cut King, who has his website sweetsoundeffects.com. I'm going to put a link across the screen right about now, as well as a link in the description. So he has a bunch of different sound effects, and the one I'm going to use is his explosions set. Now there are, 8 in here? So I'd say that's a pretty good one, the one I just found, which is blast.mp3. So that covers that. However, we still need the streaking sound for our rocket. Now I don't remember exactly what sound I used in the other one, so I'll just see if I can find one similar. I'm pretty sure I used a part of missile impact. Yeah, I think that's the right one. So we're going to drag that into our sound editor. And you want that to end when the explosion starts. So hit outpoint there. And you don't have to render when it's sound, which is kind of nice. And that's pretty good. So then I proceeded to do 2 more explosions, one here, and then something kind of like an explosion about here. But that's pretty much the same procedure as I've already shown you here, so there's really no need to just do it again. So I hope this tutorial has been useful, and I will see you in my next VFX tutorial.